pop puppet evolves into puppet master. The Kylie Minogue of 1994 presented like a born-again artist, inspired, invigorated, bold, yet strangely calm and cool at the very same time. Sophisticated. Finally, the music had caught up to the woman, and now the icon and the sound were aligned, harmonious, and the diva's 5-year wrestle for creative control was over. She had won, and her new album proved that she was right. Kylie Minogue, or KM94 as it's known to her fans, in many ways marked the beginning of Kylie's music career. She'd been popping hits since '87, but her input into the creative process had been limited to the odd line in a song, or possibly some influence over her early 90s video clips. But in 1994, the real Kylie emerged from the constraints of her primary coloured packaging. And holy hell, do you remember how she smouldered? No choice but to surrender. Jono, Aidan, Gareth and James are my golden lovers tonight. Welcome to this incredible trip to a sacred Kylie Island. Welcome, friends.
Hello.
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 Let's be honest, who was born when this was released?
Me.
Me.
Yeah, January 94. So.
I was born at the very end of the era, 10 days after Where Is the Feeling.
Now, I love the fact
released.
that a fan can mark when they were born in terms of days after a Kylie release. So let's be really specific. Aidan was born 10 days after the release of Where Is the Feeling, or Where Is the Single, as it's known to people who were around at the time. Aidan, you do realise how sick that is that you actually know that, right?
Yeah. my life is defined by Kylie moments.
Gareth, I've never asked you, how old are you, mate?
Let's just say I was a sweet 16 when the album was released.
Ah, very good. What a lovely age to be around when this was released, sort of taking you from idiotic teenager into sophisticated early adult, right? And James, how old are you, mate?
Well, I was 14 when this album was out, so I'm 37 now. For me, this is when I was like coming of age. I came out when this album was out.
Hang on, you came out in terms of your sexuality?
Sexuality, I came out at 15 in 95, so the following summer when this album was still kind of bobbing about, it was kind of, it means a lot to me, does this album actually.
I bet it does, I bet. Aidan, what's this album mean to you?
It's in my trinity of Kylie albums. I think it's a very unique era. I think it has a sophistication about it that she didn't have before, and she hasn't really recreated since. As a whole, listening to it, it's just got this feeling about it that's so mature.
As I was maturing as a teenager, it was such an awesome experience to follow, her progression as well, and know that one day I'll be an adult too, like she was becoming.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because that was my experience too. She kept leading the way for me, and still does actually. She's at the moment in the golden era. She's teaching me what it is to actually embrace your age. Jono, this is one of your favourite albums, isn't it?
Yeah, this is my favorite album. I always said that it's like a tie between Body Language and KM94, but like, you're right, Aidan. It is her most cohesive piece of work that she's ever done. And I think it's just really easy listening. It's something you can put on in the background and listen. And the songs are so long as well. So it's like when you're waiting for something, it's easy to have time pass you by while listening to the album. And it takes you in another world, I think, especially with Falling.
I think it's vocally one of her strongest albums as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She got so much stick for being the singing budgie and that she can't sing, and I think that
she showed them.
Yeah, she wanted to prove so many points with this album, and vocally, she absolutely nailed it with this album.
She uses this chest voice, which I really quite find appealing. She used it in the Intimate and Live tour, and around that stage, that's where I believe she started going to some serious world-class singing coaches who encouraged her to access a different part of her vocal range, which she, to this day, tends to stay in that groove. There is such a definite mood to KM94. How would you describe it? For me, it's a dinner party. Unlike other Kylie albums, you don't have to be an active listener to this. This can just create an atmosphere.
It's a bit of a come down album, you know, especially like Confide in Me, and she was definitely tapping into that kind of new generation, but that like come down kind of album that you pop on after a night out and things like that.
I think the album suffers in that regard, and that it's a bit too cute.
It's interesting you say that, because when she first started recording this, the first song she recorded for this album were Nothing Can Stop Us Now and a track called When Are You Coming Home. She recorded that. Then the mysterious Rapinoe brothers sessions, which we're going to get to, they're like an island of mystery for fans, and there's petitions to get these songs released in their proper quality. The Rapinoe brothers sessions were some of the first tracks she recorded for this album, and Gareth, they were considered too similar to the PWL days, and that's why they were effectively scrapped.
But it's got a style. The album kind of suffers for me style-wise, in that it's, you know, Nothing Can Stop Us and Us and Martin have a kind of 60s retro vibe, whereas I think stylistically a lot of the songs on the album just fall a bit flat, like that, just the popular sound of that era. There's nothing kind of special about them, but I'm interested to know what other people think.
If you're comparing Bubblegum Kylie to this, that's not cute. This is definitely a woman. This is definitely a woman singing. I don't think it's cute. No.
I guess the packaging that way, I guess, yeah, maybe cute is not the right word, but like the promotion for the album cover, her wearing the fake glasses with the, you know, looking all kind of officey. It's just, there's an element of pretense in this album that just doesn't feel very natural. And
I'm loving that you're putting forward this argument, because the very argument you're putting forward, which is, you know, there was a lot of effort, a lot of manufacturing, but you're so right. This is very manufactured, very premeditated. I was like you. I was there at the time. I know how hard she wanted to work to move away from how she was perceived. But I love the result. I love it. I can tell. I take your point. It's premeditated. I get that. But I love the imagery for this album. I love the sound of it. Jono, one criticism I have heard of this album is that many of the tracks are very repetitive. I'm thinking of Falling and Where Is the Feeling? Where Has the Love Gone?
Oh, no, I love that one.
Yeah, I love them too, and I think they miss the point. They're not active songs. They're not songs you'd see in the charts, that's for sure. They're atmospheric songs, right?
I mean, Put Yourself and Confide are really kind of strong singles, but when she gets to Where Is the Feeling, and she didn't actually release the album version. It was like that kind of remix or whatever, like that different mix that she put on the video.
I can't wait
where it's
to
all
talk
black
about
and
that.
white.
I wanted to say I really agree. I like the dinner party kind of comparison.
Candlesticks, right? Candlesticks and candelabras, and people who don't like Kylie, bringing them in, sit down and wait for one of them to say, this is nice music. Who's singing this?
Yeah,
Just casually slide into the conversation. Oh, Kylie Minogue.
Or I kind of picture, you know, kind of on top of the piano or something.
But what do we make of the packaging for this album, if you could call it packaging? She wanted it stripped back, simplistic.
I think it was absolutely what she was going for with the album cover. It's you know, you've got her in the middle, her name above her, and that's it. And she makes the whole album cover, and it really, you know, you kind of call, which is kind of like a sexy librarian secretary or something. But those, I remember listening. I remember her discussing the glasses and how those came. They were doing the shoot.
Yes.
And then she put the glasses on, and then that was it. Like, that made the album cover.
Those glasses came from someone either in wardrobe or makeup on the day. She had no intention of wearing them. That suit she's wearing is actually bottle green.
Like, if you open the actual album booklet, it's the exact same outfit with the glasses in different poses.
I think if she was to actually give this like an actual title from one of the tracks, I probably would say she'd choose Confide in Me.
A lot of people said that at the time, that why wasn't this album called Confide in Me? Because the picture sort of supports that as well.
Yeah, I don't really get it.
Well, the answer...
And to be honest, the black and white is too similar. the actual black and white aesthetic is too similar to what she did previously with the Let's Get To It cover. So I don't know what y'all are talking about, where like she's banning primary colours because she banned them in the previous album.
Rightly or wrongly, the reason for the name in this title was she wanted to be known as Kylie Minogue, not Kylie anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And she really wanted that up there. I mean, that was her rationale at the time. That's what she said.
I think the source of my bitterness is because as someone who wore glasses for decades, having someone who doesn't need to wear glasses, maybe that's just a chip on my shoulder.
What? Didn't she help you, though? Didn't people go from calling you Four Eyes to going, oh, you're sexy as?
Yeah, glasses are sexy.
You were just offended that she wore glasses. Confide in Me was this massive departure from what she'd been known for up until this point. And the only comment I can remember at the time from my friends and family was, oh, they've done something to her voice in the studio. She can't sing like that. That's not even her.
It blew me away. Just probably the most amazing first single of any kind of album that I've, grew up with, that just kind of was a bolt out of the blue. It's atmospheric, it's dramatic, it's if there was more songs kind of like it on the album, it would be probably a more amazing album for me. But and then the video hit, and then that just, it was bright, it was eye-popping, it was kind of jarring because of the rapid movement in it, and it was sexy, it was just everything at the time.
Better the Devil You Know was a huge turning point in her career as a lead single, but I'd argue that Confide in Me was an even bigger turning point at this stage.
I'm probably going to use the word genius like several times, but I think, again, genius. It's definitely, after Better the Devil You Know, the next big step she took everyone by surprise, and was took a little bit of a risk, but everyone loved it. It was birthed the indie Kylie persona, but as well she made people listen. It was a pretty sizable hit for the time. So, and the song itself, I mean, is absolutely gorgeous. It's got a whole bunch of different styles of instrumentation, and it blends them all into one absolutely perfect. And it's dramatic and it's sexy. It's completely genius.
Brothers and Rhythm had actually developed a demo version of this song in just under an hour. So, like really good songs in history, they seem to come together quite quickly. She recorded all of this in one take, they say. One take. I'm never quite sure if that means she just sang it once or if it means one recording session. Maybe somebody can tell us the answer to that. But what I find interesting about the production of this song was that Steve Anderson was so impressed with the demo that he actually decided to use the demo as the final recording. They just put bits and pieces over the top of it, but what you hear is actually the demo version. Kylie went back in to re-record some vocals for this afterwards, but they were for the mixes, which I really want to mention. The Truth mix is just my favourite mix, probably of any Kylie song, I'd say. The Truth mix of Confide in Me is phenomenal.
I think Confide in Me is a very 90s song. I mean, at the time, the trip-hop genre was really popular, and that is shown on Confide in Me and other places on Kylie Minogue as well. The Truth mix is excellent. It boils the song down to a down-tempo trip-hop kind of mix, and I'm a huge fan of trip-hop as well, and I think Kylie's really good at doing it. I wish she would do it again.
We're going to talk about the video clip too. William Baker, her longtime stylist, actually said that the video presents, quote, a kaleidoscope of female stereotypes that at first suggest her to be just a plastic commodity, but this notion is overturned by the lyrical content that reveals, contrarily, a multi-dimensional character who actually empowers herself. Jono, what do you make of the video clip?
Well, it looks like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring grew up, but in a good way. No, but I agree though. She does look plasticky. She does look like a doll. which is what I really kind of find with the war Kylie. You know how they all represent different things?
Yeah.
Like when she's in front of the egg, that's hunger, and the rainbow is peace. I think they're all different kind of...
I've never heard the hunger one before, I've got to admit. I just thought that she was dressed as a chicken, so she laid it.
that outfit is so cute. But with the slicked back, very 90s hair, it's very Jennifer Garner. But yeah, look, I like the video. It's kind of a departure from the actual aesthetic of the album. I like the video. I like all the different representations. I think it's really multifaceted, and I do like the fast projections and the sliding and everything. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube of a video, of a tesseract.
I guess about in Australia, there was a big kind of push and support for her on indie radio. So, you know, grunge was, I guess, emerging, and in Australia we known it as Triple J, like a young person's radio station at the time.
I don't think Triple J had ever played Kylie before this song.
That continued into Impossible Princess, and I guess stopped. But it was amazing to have her across different, radio formats.
In Australia, I'm aware that Confide in Me went to number 1, and not only did it get to number 1, it stayed there for at least 4 weeks, possibly 5. And then even after then, I remember it hovered around 2, 3, 4, and 5 for a long time before it actually started to drop down. This was a huge hit.
I thought of this earlier. I want to put a couple misconceptions to rest that Kylie was completely forgotten about in North America until Fever. That is not true. This Confide in Me went to number 39 on the US dance charts. So it was played in the clubs. There was a remix EP or single released in the US. It got promotional vinyl releases as well. And here in Canada, we had Kylie Minogue released here. Didn't make any impact on the charts, but
she
it was
even released her own version of Confide in Me for you. I don't think it was released as a single, but she recorded. It's not a French version. It's not French. It's just there's a word that I can never quite remember, but it basically means like a very overly emphasized use of the English language in terms of French. But anyway, you got a version specifically made.
It's like a mashup. I mean, the chorus is when she says "confide in me." She still says "confide in me," but then in the background, I think it's like "fais toi et moi" or something like that.
And that means.
I've looked it up before, and the translation is like "confide in me to you" or something like that. But the best translation she could get. In Canadian, it was released on cassette and CD. Impossible to find now.
How much would you pay for it, Aidan?
I dare not say. I would be willing to pay quite a bit.
The critical response to Confide in Me was absolutely spectacular. There was one particular review that stood out for me. It was written by Billboard magazine. It described the track as, quote, deeply flirtatious and as knowingly dramatic as a James Bond theme song. Confide in Me continued Minogue on her path from simplistic pop atop a swath of strings and Middle Eastern influences. The deadpanned bridge, stick or twist, the choice is yours, hit or miss, what's mine is yours, is delivered in a murmur that yearns for a serious artiste label.
But I don't know why she hasn't done a mashup of this with, I don't know, maybe like Can't Get You Out of My Head. You know how she has that hook in there, Set Me Free, and it runs on? Why wouldn't she blend that in with Confide in Me?
Interesting. That could work.
I mean, I'm crossing my fingers, girl.
Aidan, you're right that there was some American intentions here, because they actually had If I Was Your Lover slated for release in America, and that actually even made mixes, as far as I understand it, to be released only in America, only in the US, and then if it was successful, they were going to release it in Europe and England and other territories and stuff like that, but it was all scrapped at the last minute. No, but apparently they had quite a fantastic urban remix of If I Was Your Lover. What do we make of Surrender? It's certainly those opening few seconds sort of take you from Confide in Me, and there's a beautiful entrance like down a staircase into the rest of this album.
It's good. I can't say anything bad about any of these songs, which is probably why it's my favorite, because I don't kind of skip over any or hate any or kind of forget about any.
Yeah.
Maybe like Nothing Can Stop Us, just because I don't really like spoken songs, but you know, everything else is really good. I like this song. It's really powerful.
Her vocals are really good in this, and similar to Dangerous Game, there's a great kind of yearning in her voice, and it was just such a revelation to hear her such strong kind of vocals.
Track 3 was intended to be released in the US at one stage and as a single in other territories. What do we make of this? It's got a little bit of a harder edge, a bit of an electric guitar feel to it. At least the album version does, not the demo version.
I love this song. It is, I think, one of the most underrated album tracks of her entire discography. I'm dying for her to get on another anti-tour and then perform it.
She's never performed this song.
It's just got this life to it. Never ever performed it, and oh my god, I wish she would, because it's one of my instant favorites from listening to the album way back when. It's a great track that mixes kind of like an R&B, and her vocals in it are amazing.
Track 4 on the album is Where Is the Feeling, which was actually single 3, otherwise known as Where Is the Single, for people like me who were waiting months and months and months while they were probably in the background trying to work out what the next single was going to be. Where Is the Feeling? Very different album track to the single release, of course.
I love the single mix. I think it's called the Brothers in Rhythm soundtrack mix.
Yep.
But the video is amazing. That remix is just continues the atmospheric feeling of Confide, and it's not so much better for me than the album version.
This is a point of great contention because people either love the album version or the single version. I personally am so baffled by the single version. I have no idea what it was trying to be. I think they were trying to go for something for the clubs, maybe. All I can think is that maybe Kylie or someone else thought it was too bubblegum, the original version, so they tore it up and made this version. I really don't like it. I find it very odd.
I'm okay. I must be like a huge anomaly because I love both. I love the album version and the single version. The album version is another one of the. It's a really long song, more dance house music oriented. But I think it's fabulous, and I think it's a good example of a song that she, can do in two different ways and completely get a different kind of response and feeling out of it. The single mix is I think it was really supposed to be its own the first kind of little experiment for her writing and the style they went for with Impossible Princess. I think I've read that before, that it was kind of the first little pilot project. The very long mix, the soundtrack mix, she wrote the lyrics for it, added them in, and the first kind of real test for what then became Impossible Princess.
There are so many mixes of this song, it is unbelievable. Obviously you've got the album mix, and then they released there's a Dolphin mix, the BIR soundtrack, the Club Feeling mix, Morale's mix edit, the Bish Bosh mix, and there's probably more. There are so many of this. There's also an acoustic version, which I think was official, and I love that. I love the acoustic version of this song. There are just so many mixes. I don't know why, but there are, and that's good. That's gold for a Kylie fan. That's gold. Jono, you love the video clip here, right?
I love it because it looks. You know what it why? It's kind of like classic Kylie because it looks like a tour backdrop. And it's black and white. It's really sexy. It's sexy as all hell. And it's very fast, rapid shots, kind of like, really kind of like the entire aesthetic of this era, actually, with Confide and Put Yourself. So, yeah, and you've got to watch it a couple of times because it's really just, there's no real narrative to it except when the man turns up. it doesn't fit the song whatsoever, but it's just so sexy, and it's such an enigma within her videography, I think, and apart from Put Yourself, it's one of my favorites.
I like where they were trying to go with it, but I think ultimately they were too lazy with it. My recollection is, well, because I think they could have taken this further. I loved the feel of it. I loved the way they shot it. And I loved all of the production of it. My recollection is that this was shot in LA in between Kylie's other engagements, which may have been around Street Fighter. She didn't have much time to get this up. So she really did wedge this in, I know that. And it was only a one-day shoot, and she was very, very cold.
As you alluded to earlier, there was that kind of big gap between Put Yourself in My Place and, the album had kind of fallen quite dramatically. I think it debuted at number 3 in Australia and kind of disappeared by then, and it was kind of forgotten, and then this kind of almost random single seemed to pop up, and it was different from the album version, so there was, I guess, the album had already faded from memory, so it's kind of disappointing that there wasn't a kind of second push or second wind of the album with this single.
This was, at the time, Kylie's lowest charting single, and it remains that way for a long time. I think it wasn't until some other song came along and replaced it. It basically held the record for poorest performing single for a very long time.
It was Get Out of My Way, wasn't it?
In My Arms, actually, was the next kind of lowest.
Slander.
One of the gems of the album is track 5, Put Yourself in My Place. Now, this is a phenomenal track, and it's so synonymous with who Kylie is. One of her favourite tracks as well, I would say. Put Yourself in My Place.
I remember the disappointment with its chart position everywhere, really, because the video was pretty amazing, and it seemed to be an incredibly, well constructed pop song and catchy and all that, and it was quite distinct as well for Kylie's back catalogue. But for some reason it didn't seem to connect with the masses the way I think it connected with her fans at the time. I love it. It's a great song, though. I love it.
I think they thought it was going to be huge because in Australia, at least, I don't know what happened over there in England and in other territories, but they released CD1 and CD2. They did the same with Confide in Me, and some fantastic mixes as well. So, and the covers of those singles with her and the little headphones, beautiful.
I feel like a proud parent or something right now. I'm so happy she's chosen to bring this back now on the little tour she's doing. It's one of my all-time favorite Kylie songs, and it's just an absolute. I think I would regard it as probably her best ballad to date. It's got this.
It's unrivaled. I mean, no one can argue that.
Yeah, there's nothing that compares to it. It's sophisticated. It's sexy. It's Kylie all over. The production on it is just amazing. You've got the whistles and when the song begins. I mean, on the album it starts with the vinyl kind of scratch,
which by the way is very similar to Cosmic. Go and look up Cosmic.
This, I like the vinyl scratches, but I actually like the video mix where it just goes right into the song. I can see why it's one of her favorites, and I love probably my favorite performance she's ever done of it, except for Fever, where she included it as part of the medley. I love when she did an audience with Kylie thing for Fever, and she really, she did all the big hits on that one, and then she included that one, and she says, this is an old one, and it's one of my favorites, and her vocals, her live vocals there are very, very good, and I love it. I love it when she belts the parts and she doesn't hold back.
This song just suits Kylie's voice down to the ground, and the first time I heard her do this live and stripped back was during the Intimate and Live tour when she came to Sydney and England. Wow, it's just a beautiful version that to me still remains the best version of this song.
I don't like when she does it acoustically. I just want to hear it like it is on the album. Like, I like how she introduces it when she says, this is a song I did where I wore a pink spacesuit or something. Like, and she's so cute when she does it, but I just want to hear it with all the bells and the whistles, and I don't want to hear it like stripped back. I really don't.
I mean, that mix she used on Showgirl was, I guess, like a space age kind of mix, but a little bit closer to the album version. But otherwise, she usually does it more acoustic, in an acoustic style.
For me, it's also I noticed that when she performed it on this Golden promo tour, the fans were pretty much singing the whole song along with her.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few kind of lyric-heavy early songs that aren't repetitive in their lyrics. So I think it remains in her tours kind of also like Finer Feelings, because it's got a full kind of lyric story to it that makes it, great for fans to sing along to, and also lets her do something interesting with it.
She said the video is one of her favourites too.
Yeah, the video sees her strapped up in harnesses and wires. Took her 2 days to shot. She's quite belittling of the two Americans who rigged her up, frankly. She's quite belittling about Americans, Kylie. That's another point. She often mimics them and sort of seems to mock the culture of America. That's a slightly different topic. But yeah, the video, the product, the result was amazing though. The video is fantastic.
The Barbarella inspired thing. Oh, so good. Yeah, she looks so sexy. The red hair, the makeup is on point. I'm not usually one of the people that really cares about that, but she looks so stunning. The pink with the blue background and then the orange hair. It's like a kind of complementary aesthetic palette, and it's just when she strips. The entire... It's like she's never done anything like this before.
Now, you might be surprised that there was actually controversy about this video at the time.
Oh, haters.
Well, no, not people who hated it, but the censors stepped in, and there are two different cuts of this video. One that shows sort of a side of her breast, and that needed to be cut for all the morning video shows. So there are actually two different cuts of this video floating around.
Oh, the video, I've read that it was pretty hard on her to shoot.
Yeah.
She cried. She cried, and but she obviously really is quite proud of the outcome.
Track 6 on the album is Dangerous Game. Now, this is a true collaboration with brothers in rhythm, Steve Anderson and Mr. Seaman.
Seaman? Oh, stop.
We've all got to grow up, don't we? Dangerous Game. What do we make of it?
It's my favourite of the album, and it's in my top 5 favourite Kylie tracks. If anyone's interested, that's Fine, Dangerous Game, Do You Dare, Take Me With You, and Butterfly. That's my top 5.
It stood out early on because it's so dramatic, and not necessarily as an enjoyable kind of song, because there seems to be a lot of anger in her voice, and that kind of you kind of sense, is this anger about the past, or it's an interesting song, and it's very well placed on the album. Whether it's something that you can kind of listen to over and over, probably not, because I just sense a lot of anger in her, and but it shows off her vocals like you would, it's like Confide and a couple of the other songs, so it's one of the best on the album.
So many opportunities for her to show off her vocals, and this is just a prime example. I love the build up at the end. It's fantastic. Like you say, there's so much tension in this song. It is fantastic, and the fact that it goes from beautiful piano to that angst-filled lead up to the end of the song it's very dramatic. It's a fantastic track, and she performed it beautifully at Intimate and Live. Automatic Love. Now, this is fascinating to me because I just want to know what it's about. Someone making love to a computer.
It's kind of strange. There's a weird line in it that goes, "I didn't feel you enter," which is in my main menu.
Yeah, see?
Like, when will you ever...
as crazy as you think.
Yeah, it's about online nookie.
Unconditional love, maybe. It's like, I love you so much that I'm just going to love you all the time. It's automatic. I don't know. I wanted to say it's interesting that it's the sole survivor of the Rapina Brothers sessions.
Yes, thank you. In Fan World, this mystery island of tracks, we know the names of a lot of them. We didn't hear them for a long time. I think we've probably heard nearly all of them now.
And it's the only, I guess, writing credit she has on the album. Because as far as I know, the Rapino Brothers sessions she co-wrote on all of those. I think there was eight of them that came out of those sessions. So, and obviously the album version of Automatic Love was reproduced to fit reproduced by Brothers in Rhythm who reproduced it, right?
Yes.
Because there's Love Is on the Line as well that was reproduced and I guess considered for inclusion as well at one point. They're quite different. The original demo version of Automatic Love, which apparently was used in what was it, like a video game or something like that? I've heard, like ending credits of something.
Oh, okay.
I think.
I didn't know that. I know it was used in a movie.
Great song overall.
Gareth, tell us a little bit about the Rapino Brothers. These were sessions in 1993 with the intention of having them on the album.
Yeah, as mentioned, there was around 8 of them. 2 of them, Difficult by Design and Gotta Move On, ended up on the Hits Plus compilation. A couple that I think the rest of them pretty much mostly leaked. They're Love Is on the Line, For All I'm Worth, Living for Your Loving. Aston Martin as well, did I mention that? That also leaked. And that was quite popular amongst Kylie fans, especially when it leaked around 1998. So
yeah,
it was definitely...
To this day, they're still not out there, though, in their proper quality formats.
I have all the tracks in high quality. I have all 8 of the tracks in high quality.
That is freaking phenomenal. 2 of the tracks that weren't necessarily Rapino Brothers were given as a gift by Steve Anderson to the fans. He released in 2015. He didn't release them, but he gave them over. Kylie at the End of the Day, and Love Is on the Line.
So the original version of Love Is on the Line, which is more of a club-oriented song, that's the one that I have, and it's phenomenal.
Wow. Okay, well, this is exciting. Okay.
Please stand by while Kylie fans discuss secret Kylie business.
Where Has the Love Gone is track 8 on the album. I like this song.
1 minute short of her longest song, which is Take Me With You, which is 9 minutes. Yeah, I think it's a really good song. It is one of the ones that I listen to when I'm waiting for the bus. And I'm like, oh, I've got 10 minutes to wait. Yeah. Look, I kind of get what you mean when it gets repetitive, but I think when you're not really kind of focusing on it, that's the point. The songs just kind of go by anyway.
Yeah.
It's one of the weakest songs on the album, and why you would allow this track to be a 7 to 8 minute epic and not the other ones is beyond me. But to me, the album suffers with tracks like this that feel like, as we referenced before, dinner party music, background music. It's just so bland for me. Sorry.
Second last track on the album is Falling. Now, this was famously written by the Pet Shop Boys, and also reportedly they were quite cross that this version ended up on the album. In fact, I'm sure one of them said in an interview that it wasn't until they heard the album that they realised just how bastardised this song had been from the track that they had actually handed over for Kylie's project. But you can find the Pet Shop Boys version of Falling online, and it's very interesting.
Is it called Alternative Mix? 5 and 6.
No, sorry, I understand the one you're talking about now. No, that's different altogether again. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with so many of these tracks, there's a few different versions of quite a few of them.
It's not the best song for me, but it has a good place in the album because it's a bit different.
Back in the 90s, I loved the M People. I really did. I thought they were fantastic. But this last track on the album, Time Will Pass You By, is peculiar in its placement, in my opinion. It's not a bad track in itself. By the way, on the internet, there's some very large lady does a version of Time Will Pass You By. It was completely random. I saw it by accident many years ago. Maybe even a drag queen. I can't remember, but go and look it up. It's quite strange. But how do you all feel that this fits onto the album? Because it's such a pop song, and the rest of it's been quite sophisticated. And then I love the sentiment of Time Will Pass You By, but does it actually fit, and should it have closed the album? Does it represent KM94?
Well, I thought If You Don't Love Me closes the album for me because I have the entire shebang of the album with the 2 discs. So, I mean, I probably would just say that it doesn't actually really close the album. It's a good song, and you're right, it doesn't kind of really fit.
I've actually seen that version you mentioned. Actually, it's
Disturbing.
as far as I know, a song that Kylie actually covered. I guess not as well known, but I think it's a nice little closer to the album. Definitely a little bit different from everything else, and I think it drags on a little bit at the end, but not a bad track overall. I love when she says time will pass you by. She does it with quite a punch.
It's incredibly M People sounding, and that really I mean, the M People sound is quite distinct, I think, of that era, and not the best way to end the album for me.
I need your advice, all 3 of you, because there was a special edition bonus disc but it starts with this Dangerous Overture. What were the origins of that, and where did it come from, and why does it exist? Not that I'm unhappy about it, I think it's fantastic, because I know it's got the 3 acoustics that I love. It's got If You Don't Love Me, Confide in Me, the French
Where Is the Feeling,
to, and Put Yourself in My Place. Yep.
Well, they were released in May 2003, I believe. I guess around that time, and this is obviously post-Fever, Deconstruction were trying to milk that era to some extent. So Kylie's resurging, career in
2003, you said. Yes, you're right. Yes, all of a sudden there was a lot of back catalogue stuff. Yeah, no, this is making sense now. That's true.
Because I'm looking at the CD booklet. Sorry to interrupt. I'm looking at the CD booklet, and it's got like different. It says Tom Parker, April 2003, and it's got all this like insight into like into the different tracks, and I'm looking at some of the paragraphs, and it says when Kylie Minogue was eventually released after blah 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 blah, and then it just has all this insight into it, like. In the epic orchestral ballad Dangerous Game, Kylie takes on the mantle of torch song diva. Her vocals travel to hitherto unexplored heights, marrying enviable range and strength with a rare talent for understatement. I actually didn't know that this wasn't the original version.
Wow.
So this has got...
Love to get my hands on that. I also know that they intended to put the Dangerous Overture on the original version of this album. Again, feeding into that idea that this was a concept album, an atmospheric album. So we're going to start with that dangerous, and I think there's a scream in there or something. It really sets a mood before Confide in Me actually kicks in. I sort of wish they'd done that, to be honest. But there again, we've got this new disc where they do that. So, yeah, not bad. It's a wonderful little item to have in a collector's collection. Okay.
But there's a real mystery around this album, though. Like, I don't know that's why I like it, because I don't really know what any of the songs are about. Maybe because I had only just been born, so I don't actually know what was going through her life. Like, who does she sing Put Yourself in My Place about? Like, is that about a past relationship? Is that about Michael Hutchence?
Some people have suggested it's about Michael Hutchence. I've also got a question of my own about that song. Is it Circle Won't Come Around, or Summer Won't Come Around?
I've got the lyrics in front of me, hang on. Because this booklet has the lyrics. I don't know if y'all's has. I hear that you're in love now, babe. I don't want to say I can't believe that I still feel this way. I hear that you're in... What lyric are you looking for, sorry? You know the circle will come around. Maybe she means like...
the circle will like come karma. Around. There you go.
Yeah.
All these years, and I'm sure that different fans sing it wrong. That's why I've never quite been able to put my finger on that lyric. To round up this podcast, what do we see as the overall impact of this album on her career? Where does it sit, and what was the impact?
It's just another step on the road to adulthood, in my eyes. There's great stuff about it. There's a lot of weak tracks for me in it as well, but it's just great to see that development in her.
It was, at the time, absolutely the next logical step for her to take. She was so really brave for leaving the whole hit factory scene and being brave and kind of going out on her own for a little bit and into this label, which wasn't really a huge label, and really establishing herself as a respectable artist at the time. I think it definitely helped her career move for sure. I honestly don't think her career would have survived another Stock Aitken Waterman album. I mean, it was waning by the time they got to Let's Get To It already.
Oh,
so,
yeah. I mean...
Yeah. And not that, and you know what, actually, that wasn't a dig at Let's Get To It. I actually love Let's Get To It.
Yeah, I do too.
I think this was very, very smart move.
This was independence for her. I think it was really kind of living proof that she could do something, you know, where she had creative control and that she could do something that was successful. I think this is really what kind of launched her career in a good direction. And yeah, she misstepped with Impossible Princess, but in all honesty, she came back with Light Years. She did the damn thing with Fever, and this is really just, you know, steps in the right direction for where she's going, and I really wish her all the best with Golden.
For me, Kylie paved the road into young adulthood for me. This was, my hat was off so much. I have so much respect, did at the time and still do, for this move. It was incredibly brave, and she smoulded. The attitude that went along with this album is phenomenal. Just look at the ad for the album itself. Look at the interviews around the time. She was cool, she was still finding herself, but she believed she knew who she was at that time. It was very cute, very powerful, and very sophisticated. Such a fantastic album. This sound represents everything about who Kylie wanted to be at that time. Golden lovers, thank you for your time tonight.